just showing you how to install Visual Studio Code. You go to code.visualstudio.com and then click on download for Windows if you use Windows. If you use Mac, it would show Mac, and then you can download that. Once it's done downloading, please install. Make sure that you see this is a part where it says add to path. Make sure that is clicked, and so there you go, and then you would have Visual Studio Code. Visual Studio Code looks like this basically, but we're going to start off with working with the developer console. And the developer console is basically just, I'm using Chrome, so this is the browser, but underneath the hood of the browser you have something that developers can work with. It's called the developer console. So if you right click on this and then click on inspect, it would open up a console window where you can write actual JavaScript. It doesn't necessarily change the page on the other side where the website is coming from, but at least it gives you an idea of how to write code on the console basically. All right, sorry, that's not what I wanted to do, so clear it out. So this is the console, right? So we can write any valid JavaScript here. So what do you want us to write? Let's say first name. Okay, we'll talk about what this is later, but first name equals, let's say, Edison, and then you see you print out Edison. All right, so this is declaring a variable and then assigning value to it. We'll get to it in subsequent lessons, but this is basically how to use the console. You can also just write basic calculations like 2 + 2 = 4 as basic JavaScript calculations. You can store that in a container. We'll talk about containers too in a bit. And so if I say A equals 5 and then B equals 7 and then A plus B, you get 12. Basically just adding up the values of A and B. All right, so this is how you work with the developer console if you want to test out, print out, statements in JavaScript. So just to recap, it's right click, inspect to get to the console, and then when you're in the console you can write valid JavaScript in the console basically. All right, so in the next lesson, this is just a brief talk about how to use the developer console. In the next lesson we're going to talk about variables, and then we'll start writing some basic codes. Actually, we might just, before working on variables, we might just write our first real JavaScript code on the Visual Studio Code, and then we'll talk about variables. All right, okay, that's it for this lesson. Basically just taking you through installing Visual Studio Code and then working with the developer console. I'll see you in the next lesson.